Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today's video I'm going to be starting some seeds. It is one of my favorite times of the year to get some seeds into some pots and under the grow lights. So with that being said, we'll get started. And this is our little new addition to the family. This is Arya. We just got her a week ago. So she's only about 12 weeks old now. Thought I would introduce you to her before I get started here. But we'll set her down now. Otherwise she's just going to be in my way. Right, little one? Alright, seed starting. I kind of go through everything I get ready and how I prep everything. Not how I prep everything, but tell you how I prep everything. But anyway, we're going to show you what I'm going to start today. I'm just going to start a few herbs and then some onions. So we're going to do thyme, rosemary, oregano, parsley, and some spearmint. And then we'll do our red onions and our yellow onions. Now herbs give me a fit. I don't know what it is. They can be a little pain in the butt, especially the super tiny microscopic seed ones. That's why I like to start them early, get them going, hopefully get them going. But anyway, with that being said, I'll kind of show you what you need or to start seeds indoors. You're obviously going to need a flat. You want one with no holes in it. And then you're going to need some different size cell trays or cell packs. So I have the little ones here that I'm going to be starting my herbs into. Just because, like I said, they give me fits. Herbs can take a while to germinate. Some of them up to almost a month to germinate. So I don't want to pack big ones full of all that seed starting mix if I don't get any germination. I would rather start them in here and take them out and up pot them later. Then I got my next size up, which is a little bigger, that I'll use for tomatoes, peppers, stuff like that. And then I have the individual 3x3 pots that I'll use for the bigger plants later on, like cucumbers, melons, stuff like that. And then I also will use these for the onions later on in this video. Now I went through last weekend. I took all my flats and I washed them all. I took all my cell packs, washed them all, and all I do is just fill up the sink with hot water, add some bleach in there, and then scrub everything down nice, just so that if there is any stuff from last year that could transfer over to this year, that bleach will kill it all off, any bacteria or anything. And then you're off to a good start. And then with the seed starting mix, this year I bought seed starting mix. I did not make my own. I had a little bit left over from last year, but I did buy some good quality seed starting mix. And per usual, I like to heat that up just to kill off any fungus gnat larvae or eggs that might be in there. If you've had fungus gnats before, you know how much of a pain in the butt they are, because once you have them, you're not getting rid of them until you take all that stuff outside. And last year, I had that problem because I did the boiling water method to sterilize it, and that did not work. I mean, to do the boiling water method, you need a lot of boiling water, basically a 1-to-1 ratio with the seed starting mix, because it cools down so fast. And if that boiling water, whatever part doesn't get touched by the boiling water, will survive. So I took just some little tins you buy at the dollar store that you would throw in the oven, and I just bought 4 little ones, filled them all up with some mix, threw them in the oven at 350 for 7 minutes, and I just kept doing that until I filled up my little seed starting mix tote here. But anyway, like I said, we're going to get started here. And like I mentioned before, I bought my seed starting mix this year. But I do have a video on how I made my own. And we'll put a link somewhere here that you can look back at how I make it. And I will make my own again. It's just this year I felt like I was running out of time. And I didn't get around to buying the peat moss and everything I need. So I bought some. It's okay to buy some. And that's what I'm going to use. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab the seed starting mix. Alright, so I just have my little tote here full of already all sterilized seed starting mix. And first thing you're going to want to do is you want to wet that down. Not sopping wet, but I'll grab some water here and put it in there and we'll mix it up. Anyway, people change all the time. So anyway, I'm going to get the mix all moistened up here. My daughter's giving me a hard time while she's filming. I try to only put as much mix in here as I think I'm going to use, because I don't want to put wet mix back into my dry mix and then close it all up, just because then you can get some mold and stuff growing in there, and I don't want that. So I apologize if you used the boiling water method last year, because it did not work for me. Hopefully it worked for you, but my preferred method has always been the microwave, and I would fill this red bowl up and throw it in the microwave for 3 minutes. Then I would give it a good mix and throw it back in there for 3 minutes, and I never had a problem with fungus gnats doing it that way. But I took my big microwave out that was above the stove and just put a fan up there, and we just have a little microwave now that this bowl doesn't fit into. So the next best thing is the oven. I will not do the boiling water method again. Alright, so I got this moistened up pretty good. It holds together, but as you can see, I can squeeze it and there's no water coming on it. You don't that's what you want. You don't want water just to be soaking out of it. So I know I'm gonna start 5 different herbs today, and I'm gonna plant all 6 cells with the same plant in it. So I will just fill up these 5 and just go in there, fill them up, and it's important to pack them down. You don't want it all loose in the bottom. You want a nice packed cell, and then I'll just go over the top. So I'll just take my thumbs, fingers, whatever, pack it down in there. Also, if you run across any bigger chunks, take them in there. You don't want any big chunks in your tray. Alright, first I'm going to go with spearmint. And if you've messed with these seeds before, I mean, they are, I don't know how they're a seed. So I will basically just take a little handful there, and you pretty much just, not a handful, but just a little, and I will put 5, 10 of them in there, just hoping that a few of them grow. And you don't have to do much as far as burying these ones. The smaller the seed, the less it has to be buried. And you can't even see that I have any in there. But I'll kind of just pack it down, just so they have good contact with the mix. but I'm not really burying them. And these ones can take a while to germinate. I already have labels made for everything I'm starting except for the onions, but so I will write what's on there, and then on the back, the date I planted them. So at least I kind of know. It's always important to try to keep the date on there. Now the parsley is what I'm going to do next. They got a little bigger seed, so I will drop a few seeds in a little hole. They're probably like the size of a carrot seed. And I'll do maybe like 5 seeds. I like to try to get germination, and with herbs, you can thin them out pretty easy, and they don't mind growing in little groups. Now I'll just cover it up and give it a little pat down for that contact with the mix again. And that was a parsley. Don't forget the label. Oregano. Back to the seeds you can't see. It really is amazing that a plant grows from these little things. And I'll just sprinkle it around. Now these are all seeds that I am 12 weeks from my last frost date, supposedly around here. I don't believe that, and these are all plants that can take a frost or a little bit colder weather. Now you don't want them to freeze, but they can take like I said, a little bit of a frost. So I can get these out in the garden right around my last frost date or a little after if the weather cooperates. Oregano. I will start more herbs. We grow a lot of herbs, but those are ones that grow a little faster. And so I start them at a later time. Some of these can grow really slow. Now I will go with rosemary. I don't have a lot of rosemary seeds, so I will try to evenly put these in here. Looks like rosemary I am almost out of. I will try to get that last seed, and I will put this, since it's empty, in a pile that I know I need to order them. So we hope we get some rosemary growing here. If not, my wife will buy all these plants anyway at the local greenhouse. But that's fine. We like the different variety. Alright, one more. Last one. Thyme. Back to the microscopic seeds. Alright, back to the thyme again. Again. To the little seeds again, I was trying to say. And back to just sprinkling them on the surface. Pretty much any seed that comes in those little baggies like that is going to be a surface sow seed. We'll just tap them all down again. And that is it for the herbs. Now since I did moisten this, it's I don't need to worry about putting a bunch of water in the bottom of the tray right now. I will take a water bottle and just mist the top before I put them on the shelf under the lights. And I won't turn the lights on for a few days, maybe even up to a week, because you don't have to have the lights on until right before you think they're going to start germinating. So, alright. So there's the herbs, and now the onions. So the first thing to know about onions is, the main thing is the variety. Up here in the north, you want to make sure that you are planting a long day variety. So it's important you know where you fall. There's a short day I guess an intermediate, or it's kind of a cross between the two, and then a long day. And usually your seed packet should say on it if it's a long day onion. These ones just have the LD on the back for long day. So that's the important thing. And then the other thing is what you're going to start them in. You don't want to start them in a little pack like this, because these ones I'm going to up pot if they grow. The onions are going to be in the container I put them in until they go out into the garden. And you can plant a lot of onions in one pot. So I'm going to go with a 3-inch pot, and I'll plant like 30 onion seeds in each pot. But I will do a little bit different. I will add a little bit more stuff to the mix when I'm doing the onions. I will add a little bit of fertilizer, just because they're gonna be in here. I will fertilize stuff with water soluble fertilizer every once in a while as well, but you don't have to add fertilizer to your seed starting mix. But I have found it helpful when I'm planting stuff in pots that I'm not going to have to transplant into a bigger pot. So like these, when I do transplant these into a bigger pot, I will transplant them into a mix that I do have fertilizer in. So I'm going to need a little bit more mix in here. I'm probably going to fill up like 6 of these, or more. We'll get this bucket full. Now, geez, another big chunk. I guess that's what I get for buying seed starting mix this year. For the most part, it's all really nice, and you're going to find a chunk or two here, even in the good quality stuff. So now, I got pretty much a full bowl, and I will take my fertilizer of choice, which if you've seen any of my videos, this is the only fertilizer I use for everything. It's made by the same company I ordered all my seeds from. They have a website, and I will just take, in this bowl here, I will basically mix in like this size, yeah, maybe about a half a cup. And then also, since I'm doing onions like a very well draining soil. They do not like to sit in moist soil. Roots can rot out on them. So it's important to have a well draining soil. And for that, I will just add a little bit more vermiculite. I'm out of perlite. I would add perlite if I had it, but vermiculite will do. And this is, they will both help with the drainage. So I will just add some more vermiculite in there, water it all down, and then give it all a good mix. Get that fertilizer and the vermiculite all mixed up well in there. Alright, so I got it mixed up pretty good. I'll do the same thing. Pack it down in there good. For the onions, I'll leave a little room at the top, because I'll just lay the seeds in there and come back and sprinkle some mix over the top of them. I don't know how many I'm going to need here, but I plan on doing for sure two of them with the red onion, and for sure 4 with the Utah yellow, maybe even more. I almost like to use the whole pack, just because out of all the seeds that you buy, onion seeds you pretty much want to buy new every year. Their germination rate falls off the table a lot faster than all your other seeds, so it goes way down year by year. You know, your tomato seeds and pepper seeds, them will last you 3, 4, 5, 6 years, no problem. onions, maybe 2 years you'll get out of them. I guess we'll just keep filling them up. Okay, I think that'll be enough. So we'll do these 5 pots with the yellow onions. These Utah yellow, they have done very well for us. I've gotten good sized onions with them, and they store very well. We actually just used up our last one. So it's just a pinch of about 20, 25 seeds or so, and just sprinkle them all around. And then I'll go back and just add a few more to each one. So that's probably a good 150 seeds, I would say, in there. And I will do the same thing with the red. These have no problem growing close together. And then when you go plant them out in the garden, you just pull the whole plug out and separate them all. Now I will come back and just put a layer over the top. So now I just gotta make the labels real quick for all these, just like the other labels. Date on the back. And also, as you can see, I got 2 different size heights of cells here. So if you're doing this, you need to make sure that you have a grow light set up, or however you're doing the lights. You at least have 2 different areas, so you can I can put all these taller ones on a different shelf than these ones, because you want the lights, depending on what lights you have. Like me, I just use the fluorescent lights with the brightest and highest, most powerful bulbs I can get for them. So I need to keep mine about 1 to 3 inches away when they're first germinating. So I basically will have them just above these little tags here. And I do have enough shelves and enough lights to where I can have the onions on a different shelf than these ones. So alright, the next thing would be, how do I water these? So, like I said, these will be in a different flat, and I bottom water all the time. So I will just, right now, they're moist. I will take, like I said earlier, I won't do it with the onions, but I will just take a water bottle and lightly spritz the top just to get them seeds a little coating of water, especially the ones that are on the surface. But you don't want to spray too hard because you don't want the seeds to fly out or move. So when it comes to the starting seeds, you always want to keep the soil and everything moist. You don't want any of it to dry out. You don't want the seed to dry out on you, or it just isn't going to germinate. After they start to germinate, I will let the top dry out, and you can tell by the color of it when it's dry. And you don't have to water again for a good 2 to 3 days after the top is dry, because it's still going to be wet all down here. It dries from the top down, so that's why I wait another 2 to 3 days. And then I also, when you've done it enough, you can kind of feel, you'll know by the weight of it if it needs watering or not. And that's just something, you do it enough, you get used to it, you know how much it weighs when it's just watered, and you can just do that after you water it and it's nice and full of water and moist. Pick it up and you'll know how much it weighs, and then after a few days you can pick it up again, and then when it's totally dry you can really tell because they weigh nothing. So like I said, just wait a good 2 to 3 days after it dries out the top before you water again. But that's for when they have already all sprouted. Right now you want to keep them moist as much as you can, but you don't want them waterlogged, but just nice and moist. So, and that's how I get my seeds started and how I kind of take care of them. And then I'll show you on the next video when I start more seeds, because that's probably going to be in the next video. I'll show you how these ones are doing on their light. I doubt anything will have sprouted yet, but I'll show you my little light setup and what I was talking about earlier with that. So with that being said, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one when I'm planting some more stuff. Bye.